flying. What's up with lanthanum chloride?
Oh, yeah. Some people were asking how I'm dosing lanthanum. And so lanthanum, it doesn't bind to phosphate. I was talking to Craig, so I made sure I got my terminology right. It precipitates into like a lanthanum crust, lanthanum carbonate, I think, or lanthanum phosphate, which is an insoluble sand, essentially. Although I don't know if anybody's actually looked at it to see what its structure is. And that's what you're catching in your floss or in your sock, right? So it becomes insoluble and you get rid of it by pulling it out. I've been injecting it into my system, into the skimmer. So I've got a solution of diluted lanthanum. I'm doing currently 40 mil into 3,000 mil, so into 3 liters of distilled water, and that's getting dosed directly into my skimmer body at about 60 mil a day, and it does bring my phosphate down. It was running at about 1.4 or 1.3, which is high, right? Because people like 0.5, 0.05, right?
Yeah.
And it's down. I just tested it today because I wanted to see what's going on. It looks like it's about 0.3, which is a big drop. But it's been, I've done it like over a year. I wanted to go super slow.
Okay, that was the question I had. Well, first question. I think I saw it somewhere, but is this available to basic hobbyists?
Yeah. There's bunches of different kinds out there. I'm sure there's some. I was able to get some like bulk and direct. So I've got, like 2 gallons of it. When it looked like it was going to be problematic to get, I was able to get some. So you can get it like that from a dealer. I'm sure there's a bunch or several of products made specifically for the aquariums for what we're using it for now. And then there's Sea Clear, which is used for pools. But honestly, I would just go online and do a quick search and see what people are using and use that. I don't know what the dosage is. You'll see people who do stuff that I wouldn't do with it. I know Mark Levinson has done it a lot, using one of the consumer products for the aquarium industry. And they do a big dose of it, weekly or monthly or whatever, and then they're done. I think I feed so much all the time that a weekly dose is probably not the best idea. So I wanted to go, consistent removal all the time, a little bit. And what I really wanted to see, oh, by the way, it comes out in the foam. The idea is that right in the skimmer body, it flocculates in such small doses that it should adhere to the bubbles and be exported. So has it made the color of your skimmate different, like milky or anything? It made the quality of the skimmate different when I started. Okay. All of a sudden I seem to be getting much more of a foam head than I would normally get. Usually it'd be pretty floppy and anemic. And then all of a sudden there was a structure to it, which I imagine is the flocculate, the precipitate actually being exported. But it's very small amounts. Going on all the time. So where I haven't seen any, one of the worries about lanthanum is that it will end up adhering to your glass or to your pumps or to your heaters, which is why you don't ever want to put it, on an intake side of a pump, because it will be like, the calcium precipitation, but lanthanum,
like scale
or lanthanum calcium or calciolanthanum. I'm not a chemist. That's why we need Craig back, or Craig Bingman. Craig Biggerman. So I haven't seen any of that. So it seems to be working. I'm getting some RTN right now, but it's spring. So that is lame, but that's happening again.
You brought that up before. Every spring you seem to get some RTN.
And it skipped me the last year or two and it's hit me a little bit. So I'm unhappy right now. But when that calms down, I'll start upping the ratio again. I may start doing more bigger water changes as well, because more bigger. I got some things in the lab that may need that attention. So we'll see how that goes. But like I say, it seems to be working, and I think Craig said he wants to be on the show. I don't know if he's listened to the show, but he says he wants to be on. So we'll get him on, and he can school us about that. and then tell us why all the units we use are terrible, which I'll agree with him about.
Were,
yeah, go ahead.
were you able, because we all know as reefers, the last thing you want to do is change some parameter drastically.
Yeah.
So you were able, like, so, okay, so Richard gets the lanthanum chloride. It comes in liquid form or dry form?
Liquid form.
Liquid form. But where do you start? I mean, I'm assuming that there's a lot of threads all over the internet about people messing with lanthanum. So
Yeah,
there was at least a baseline to start from.
Yeah, well, public aquariums have used it for a long time, and pools have used them for a long time, so it's not unknown. So there is a bunch of information about that out there. What we didn't know was how great it works with aquaria, with our corals. The information about lanthanum is out there. Public aquariums have used them. They've used them in mammal pools. We've used them in swimming pools.
Mammal pool, is that like food bowl?
Yeah, no, it's like a mammal in a pool.
Yeah.
Like a seal or a sea lion or a hippopotamus. Have you ever seen a hippopotamus?
I love hippos.
Have you ever seen a hippopotamus in an aquarium?
I used to be a zookeeper. Hell yeah.
Have you ever seen a hippopotamus shit in an aquarium?
Oh, dude, yeah. It's like they just shit hay in the water.
A lot of phosphate in that shit. So it becomes problematic, and people want to get rid of it.
Is that where it comes from, kind of?
No, just anywhere that there's phosphate that you want to bring down, people have been using it. So, and there's articles, you don't have to go scour online. There's articles out there that will talk about lanthanum. There's a pretty decent one at Reef to Rainforest that Daniel Knopp wrote.
Dude, Daniel Knopp, that's old school. I have his book on clams.
But it was only a few years ago.
Okay.
He did some experiments with it, and he had some good ideas. So take a look at that. Maybe we'll get that link up.
I love you, Daniel Knopp. He doesn't know me, but I've read his books forever.
Yeah. So you don't have to be random. You can get a baseline and decide what to do, and go slow. I've got my spreadsheet up here.
Is the chemical itself dangerous in any way?
We don't know. That's why Joe Waiulo has used it a lot as well in his big reef at
Joe's the first place I ever Joe Waiulo's the first person I ever saw mention it. That's where I had heard of it.
So I'm still nervous about it because we don't know what it does. I guess what lanthanum does is it's better at calcium's job than calcium.
Okay.
Right. So it will bind in the skeleton of corals.
Oh.
But if there's enough of it in your body, your muscle moving needs calcium. It's at some small level. And if lanthanum is in there, weird stuff might happen. So Joe used to make fun of me because I said, I'm pretty hesitant about using lanthanum in our tanks because we just don't know if it's dangerous or not. And so he made fun of me, call me a big baby.
I know there's a running joke, but I never got read in on it. He always posts his bottle.
Oh, that bottle. It says the AOTI says not to use me.
Yeah.
Which isn't actually what I said, but I love it. So there's starting points out there. And like I say, I started in 2018, January of 2018. And I was doing 100 mil a day then.
That was your starting point?
100 mil of the concentration. I started my concentration at 7 mil per liter. So it's a tiny amount. And I started raising it up, and it went down relatively quickly. Actually, it started at 1.68. And then,
what were you testing?
Like a week later, two weeks later, it was down to 1.23. So it did drop. And then I kept upping it. And then it bounces around.
Weren't you scared to drop it too fast?
Yeah, but at the academy, we used to do into the 200,000 gallon tank. We used to do 750 mil of lanthanum into 30 gallons of water, and that would be pumped into the sand filter every week.
Oh, to catch it. It would catch it.
And then the sand filters get backwashed and all that precipitate goes to drain. So we've been using it for a long time, and it seems to help keep it down. The real thing I wanted to do was see if I could get ahead of it in my tank, right? My tank's 18 or 19 years old now. And, the idea is that phosphate binds into your rock and stuff. And as it gets liberated out of the water, it gets liberated from the rock. So the idea I have is a slow dosing of lanthanum over time will help get ahead of it in the water. Now, I do feed so much that might be a pipe dream, but we'll see. I mean, we have no idea how long it would take to unphosphate my rocks. I mean, there's no way you could know that because we don't know anything about my rocks in particular.
I mean, supposedly what I'd always heard though is that how phosphate can bind to calcium, but then you think about when biological action occurs, that liberates tiny amounts of acids, and supposedly around that substance could like liberate more. But I mean, neither you nor I are chemists, and it's kind of hard to say like would that truly liberate. We're gonna kill Snowman. Snowman told us to twitch our ears, and he'd do a ear twitch count. But I've just been sitting here habitually doing this, and Snowman's gonna give up. Sorry, Snowman.
It's gonna be awesome. Snowman's head's gonna explode.
He's like, and plus yours are twitchy. I mean, mine's go erect, but anyways, yeah. So biological action liberating phosphates in your substrate and on your rock, but it's like, how the hell do you quantify that? It's more like theoretical.
Or also, as the phosphate concentration in the water column drops, the phosphates that are bound to whatever surfaces in your aquarium want to become equilibrialized, which is not a word. So,
which is crazy because then meanwhile you're quantifying your phosphate amounts, and you're like, oh, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. But what if it is going somewhere in the body, in the water column, but liberating out? I mean, that's all theoretical, but liberating out. You just keep trudging along until you see it dip down.
Yep. And so, real slow, almost 3 years now. And it's funny, when I got depressed or whatever in January and stopped paying much attention to things, I missed when I ran out of my lanthanum mix. And so in November of last year, my phosphate was at 0.65. Then by the end of January, it was up to 0.91. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong year. Yes, in December, it was like 0.82. And then I wasn't paying attention, and it crept up to 1.1. And then I replaced my mixture, and it dropped then to 0.3. And I didn't expect it to drop that quickly. And now that I've been on it, it's around 0.3, 0.4. And so, like I say, once my RTN stops, I don't think the RTN is related to this because it didn't start till like a month ago, but could be. As soon as that calms down, I will try to get more aggressive again, and we'll see what happens.
Now, what is your goal? I mean, because you and I, and you without me, have spoken for a long time about, the kind of arbitrary goal of 0.05. It's like, it's not a holy grail.
Yeah, I guess I even me gets worried at like 0.15, 1.5. That seems like a lot. So, and because I like to be, to work smart, not hard, if, that's why, dosing into a 10 mil sock, I tried it once and it was like, the next morning I just threw it away. I was like, I'm never doing this again. Because
stop on that point, because that's the first. Stop, collaborate, and listen. ICE is back with a brand new edition. No, that's the first time I had ever heard of lanthanum chloride, is people dosing into a sock. So don't gloss over that. Why did that bug you?
Oh, because it's so much work. It's got to be a 10 or a 5 micron sock, because it's got to be small enough to stop the precipitate from getting into your system, right? Okay. Or at least that's the common wisdom. And a 10 in my system, at least, because I don't do mechanical filtration, a 10 micron sock gets saturated very quickly.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like, I'm going to have to rinse this sock every day. I'm just not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
And
let me ask you that.
Filter.
Did you ever try it, or just right off the bat, you were like, nope?
I did it for probably 3 or 4 days.
Okay, so what were you mostly seeing? Were you seeing just detritus from your system, or was it truly like the lanthanum precipitate? That was
Well, I wasn't doing much. So because I was doing such a light dose of the lanthanum chloride, it was just organics that was clogging the sock. You know, I didn't want to just dump a bunch of, you know, I'm scared of this stuff and I'm scared of changing things quickly. So yeah.
Maybe Joe is right. Maybe you are a big baby.
Oh no. Look at me. Of course I'm a big baby.
You're wearing a onesie, for Christ's sake.
So yeah. So my goal is to see if there's an easy way to control phosphate. If it was easy and maintenance free for me, you know, I've always said if it was easy, I would bring it down, you know, because, you know, I think my corals are probably darker because of the higher phosphate. You know, I think there are some sensitive ones that may not do well in my system. You know, so, you know, I'm not like, I've never gone out there and go, everyone should have their phosphate as high as possible. I've always said, don't do what I'm doing. Do what you want to do. And so the goal was to see, is there an easy way that I could bring phosphate down in my system that I wouldn't throw at the wall after a week because it's too much work. So it's an auto doser into the skimmer. The skimmer exports by itself. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to do anything except
what dose are you using?
Using Apex dose.
Oh, okay. Did you drill a hole in the lid of the skimmer and you drip
it
right down the middle?
I did. I wanted to do it through the side, but I didn't want to penetrate the side of the skimmer. And then I just kind of decided, you know, just straight down the neck. So there's a hole in the top of the skimmer, and a piece of rigid airline tubing that goes 3/4 of the way down into the skimmer. And then the line from the peristaltic pump is connected to that rigid airline tubing.
I was going to say, you know how I'm like a weirdo with stuff. I was going to like tell you to tap and die the hole and put a barb, like a nipple, penetrations and nipples and all that.
No reason for that.
I know. It's silly.
It's especially because you cannot see the top of my skimmer because it's 38 inches tall in a 40-inch crawl space. So, really to get it in, I've got to thread it against the ceiling and into the hole. And it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also wanted it to be submerged in the skimmer because I didn't ever want it to clog.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want it to you know,
would it do that sort of crust thing like
I don't know, but those are I don't know if it would do the crust thing that you get like with caulk, but I certainly didn't want. That's certainly the kind of thing I want to think about. You know, how can I get ahead of these things rather than get caught by them later on? Yeah, because it would be lame.
Go ahead.
It would be lame to find out, you know, that nothing was dosing after a month because it was clogged.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you ever, I know like you keep it easy, but do you ever like pull up the tube and you verify that or I guess look at the container? Yeah, the container is constantly going down. And also here's a little thing I do. I will unplug the line. I will intentionally entrain air into the peristaltic pump. Okay. I actually don't unplug anything. Just take it out of the reservoir. Let it run for a little while so air's in there. Then put it back in and then watch as it does its next automatic dosing that the bubbles are moving along and through. So that's how I know it's getting in there. Is lanthanum, is it relatively cheap? At the amounts I'm dosing, I think so. I think it's not an I don't know. I haven't bought it since I started in 2018. And that's when there seemed to be a real spike in the price of lanthanum. China raised all the prices. So you don't remember that? No, you don't. Because you were in Texas driving around your truck going, I'm never going to get rid of this truck. Not knowing in 3 years would be like, I need a truck. I need a truck. My head. I'm like Darth Maul, Darth Squirrel. I'm Darth Bunny. Darth Bunny. So yeah, I don't know. It can't be that expensive because people online don't seem to be complaining about how much it is for reef aquariums. You know how people will complain about everything being expensive if it's expensive. I've never seen. No, I shouldn't be like this either, but I'm saying if it ever got popular, companies are going to come out of the woodworks and like, monetize it and like lanthanum chloride is $50 for a vial.
Yeah, well, I think they also know that they dilute it. So if you get it, you got to check the dilution. It's like someone was complaining about a graduated cylinder that came with a pump, a peristaltic pump, not 10 mil, not being 10 mil. They were like, I can't believe I paid $400 for this doser and this plastic graduated cylinder is off by 2 mil. And it's like, it doesn't matter because you're never doing exact anyway. You're doing some ballpark and then you're adjusting around that as time goes. So the only reason you calibrate a pump like that is to get a language between you and the pump so you can make changes that make some kind of sense. What the actual numbers are is almost irrelevant because you're looking for an effect of what you're dosing.
Yeah.
So who cares? So I think that answered whatever you just asked me.
It did. But so the other ways of removing phosphate. You got me more intrigued by lanthanum because if you're dosing something, you can quantify it easily. So if I'm running GFO, I mean, I can test with a like a HANA checker and document and I can watch it come down, but there's no way to like modulate what's going on. I mean, there kind of is, but kind of not. But there definitely is with dosing.
It's easier with dosing, because if you're doing GFO, you got to know how much, but you still do it with GFO, right? So you go, okay, my
GFO, but I'm getting ready.
But then it's like, is it the cup? So is it the amount of GFO that you're using? Is it the rate that you're flowing water through that GFO? So there's all those things that you've got to, it's two things. But you've got to dial both of those in and decide which is the one you want to move. And the only way you could do that is you start with some amount of GFO that you put in the reactor and some flow that you feel is reasonable through the reactor. And then you look at the effect and then you decide which of those two things you want to adjust later to make more or less of an effect. And you can adjust both of them if you want to.
It's a lot of work compared to a doser though.
A doser, well, but I'm doing the same thing. It depends on the percentage, the dilution of the lanthanum chloride that you're using. So I don't know what it is in any of the commercial products. I know with the lanthanum chloride solution that I have, I dilute it to the dilutions I was just talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm currently at like 40 mil per 3,000 mil of distilled or RO. Yeah, I'm using distilled water. And so the parameters I can change, even with a doser, there's still two: my dilution and the rate of dosing.
Okay, but that's pretty simple versus trying to get a GFO reactor like dialed in some way, shape, or form. Here's another one: solid carbon dosing, so bio pellets, and that's tricky too.
Yeah, those never made me happy. I think I'm going to agree with you now, though, that the idea of being able to say, because on your doser now, on your peristaltic pump, you can tell it a number and you have a reasonable expectation that number is near accurate because you've calibrated the thing and kind of know what that is. So you can just tweak that or tweak your percentage. That's a lot easier than getting a flow rate.
There's solid numbers there.
Yeah, but and putting a flow meter on a doser it's a little bit more, because you get a paddle wheel doser and then those can have problems. They need to be cleaned regularly. And I love the dose by Apex. I know I'm a fanboy, but I after using Masterflex and what's the other one? The liter meters for years, and changing those tubings, man, you just pop the whole head off of the dose and put a new one on. It's just great.
Well, if I remember correctly, the Masterflex was pretty damn expensive.
Yeah, I got one under the house.
It's a good place for it, right next to all the bodies.
Anything else about lanthanum?
I don't know. I think we kicked that pretty good until we get an actual expert on the show.
Okay, we'll get Craig on. He seemed pretty happy about coming on.